All right, my friends, hey, let's go ahead and get started. So let me ask you this, all right, before we jump in, all right? How many of you, this is your first momentum? First momentum. I know you guys get asked that. Okay, about half the room, that's excellent. This is year number 16 for me in a row, all right? I started with the summer of my 8th and 9th grade year of momentum. At the time, it was called BNYC, Brother National Youth Conference. And so 16 years in a row, it's good to be with you guys this morning. My name is Todd Shoemaker. I'm the pastor of student ministries at Grace Church Bath Campus in the greater Okay, all right, good. And so I've been there for 7 years, getting ready to start my 8th year. Absolutely love what I get to do day in and day out. I'm a graduate of Grace College, so be sure to visit their table. I love Grace College, and I think it's a great place for you. Any graduated seniors in the room, getting ready to start college? All right, guys, you have a special place in my heart. I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. But this is a power track. Hello, is anybody there? All right, because today what we're going to do is talk a little bit about your faith and why sometimes we feel like we're alone when it comes to our faith. All right, but before we jump in, I want to introduce you to my awesome family. I've been married for a little over 3 years to a beautiful gal named Katie. All right, I can't believe I'm putting this picture up. She's hot, and that's not why I'm saying this. The Indians hats. I'm actually not an Indians fan. All right, it was a free giveaway, and we had an awesome date night that night. I'm actually a Baltimore Orioles fan. And so it actually takes every fiber of my being to put that picture up there because of the hats, not because of the gal, all right? She's awesome. I love her so much. She's actually here, so if you see her this week, all right, I want you to go up to her and say, your husband is absolutely the best. He does so much for me, and I want you to know that he's the best, all right? I need you to throw in some brownie points for him. All right. Just kidding. Last 15 months ago, we were blessed with an awesome little guy. His name's Graham. Love this kid. All right. This kid makes me better every single day. He has got a personality. I'm assuming you're telling me exactly. Check 1, 2. All right, now we're talking. I love this kid to death. He has a incredible personality. In fact, he's also here. And so if you see my hot wife pushing this stud around, that's my family. So be sure to say hello. My son will say hello over and over and over again. That's like one of his only words he's got. That and cheese. He loves cheese. So hi and cheese. That's what we've got right now. So this is my family. Just wanted to introduce you guys to them. So I kind of want to jump right in. I will tell you this. What time is it? 9:40. 9:40. All right. We will not take the whole time. All right. Because I want us to get through this conversation. I want to give you guys some time at the end to kind of process this a little bit with the people right across the table from you. Spend some time in prayer, and then we'll get you over for session. All right. I want to share today. My goal is this. I want us to find a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of hope when it comes to your faith journey. All right? I can put myself in your shoes. This is why I'm passionate about student ministries. I felt called into ministry when I was actually in middle school. And it's something that God has kind of put to the forefront of my life and kind of led me to where I'm at today. So I truly believe I'm living the dream. And so that calling that He's placed on my life, I want you to know today, it wasn't an easy journey to where I'm at right now. There's been a lot of hurdles, and so today I want to share a little bit of my story, a little bit of insight that was given to me when I was your age, and I hope that you walk out of these doors thinking, okay, this whole journey that I'm on when it comes to my faith, you don't have to do it alone, but sometimes it feels like we are. And that's what I want to establish here this morning. All right. So middle school was actually the fall of my 6th grade year, going into my 7th grade year, when my relationship with Jesus began. But that, I'll be honest though, yeah, I made the decision. Yeah, I felt called into ministry, but I did not get serious about my faith until I was in high school. All right. It wasn't until high school I was kind of living a life kind of twofold. All right. It was actually a double standard life, and maybe you guys can relate with this one. I was living a life in 2 different ways. Wednesday night and Sunday morning, I was the Christian. I was the Christ follower. I was the guy who loved Jesus with everything he had. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, Thursday, and Friday, I was the jerk. I was a completely different person. I was living a double standard life. And it wasn't until high school, the summer of my junior year, I went to the Dominican Republic on a missions trip for 8 days. I came back. I ended up going to Momentum Youth Conference, and God rocked my world. And that summer was literally the kick in the pants that I needed, where God allowed me to see that I needed to be broken. And I needed to turn things over to Him, and I needed to surrender my life to Him. And so when that took place in my life, I got serious about who Jesus was and what Jesus was doing in my life and what I needed to be doing in my life to show the love of Christ to everyone that I came in contact with. And so I want you to think for a second. Where are you currently when it comes to your relationship with Jesus? Can you actually relate to maybe that double standard life that I was talking about? Guys, it's still a struggle for me today because I'll go home in the comfort of my own home and I'm like, man, am I still living? If people saw me right now, would they say, oh, that's the Pastor Todd that I know? Right? And I think it's a struggle for all of us. And so here's what I want you to do. I kind of want you to just take 30 seconds real quick, and I just want you to do a quick eval of who you are and where you're at in your life. All right? A, are you where you want to be? Okay? B, all right, is think about, man, with my journey with Christ, am I where God wants me to be? All right, so think about those two questions real quick. 30 seconds to a minute, go. So the summer of my junior year of high school, all right, when I decided, I got to get serious with God. I need to get on track and allow Him to be the number one in my life. Between then and into my college years, I found the closer that I grew to Christ, the further I became from my social status, my peers, my friends. Even they claimed to be Christ followers, but I found that my relationships with my friends started to drift away. And I want you to know that was something that really struggled for me because personally, that double standard life that I had, I wanted to be known as a Christ follower, but I also wanted to attend the parties. I also did not want to lose the status with my friends. I wanted to enjoy the ways of the world, right? And I was so torn. But what happened was, man, when I got serious about my relationship with Him, I'm like, man, why do I feel like I am on an island by myself, trying to love Jesus with everything that I have? But looking around, I'm like, where did all my friends go? And for some of you sitting here today, maybe you've experienced that. Maybe not, but I want to encourage you, you may. And so when you feel like you're all alone in your faith journey, what do we do? So I want to share some things today to give you some insight, to give you some encouragement, to kind of think, man, what do I do if I start experiencing that feeling? And so we're going to look about some practical ways on what you can do, some things that I'm going to give you to pray about and think about as you guys leave here this morning. But I just kind of want you to kind of put yourself, forget about who you're sitting next to, and just kind of focus in, all right? I think one of the key elements that I found where I got the feeling that I was alone in my faith was because of something called an idol. Worshiping false gods. I've been doing a study in the book of Jeremiah. It's an incredibly difficult book to grasp, all right? But as I was digging into this book, I realized that there is some interesting facts that I learned, some things that allowed me to see back in the Old Testament there. And so in Jeremiah, people would literally worship these idols, these gods. All right, so here's a couple of them. And the reason why I'm telling you this here is because I think it actually plays a big part in why sometimes we feel like we're alone. And so there would be people that would worship the god Asherah and El, and they worship them for source of water. All right, these would be gods. I was convicted this morning. I'm going to confess something. There's a giant rock that was holding our door open on our floor. I was going to take it and use it as an illustration, but I felt guilty for stealing it. So I left it there. So I was going to hold a rock this morning because literally people would worship rocks, right? And they would worship these false gods. They would be these idols that honestly they would look at and expect to experience hope, to experience comfort, to experience that peace and strength. And so these gods, right? You have the god of Baal, and this god people would worship for fertility. All right? They would worship for weather, justice. They worshiped Baal by having sex with prostitutes. That's weird. And sometimes by sacrificing their own children. What? Right? And so reading through Jeremiah, I started to learn that there was a huge corruption in worshiping a god. And what they didn't realize is that there's one God that should be being worshipped. And what I found in my life is that I struggled with false gods. I worshipped idols. And I wasn't worshiping the one true King. And I can guarantee it that you guys sitting in these rows here today, you guys are experiencing the same thing, whether you know it or not. But our gods look different. Our gods are paper. Our gods are metal. Our gods are cotton. What I mean is that it's money. It's our iPhones or our smart devices. It's the clothing that we have to have. It's amazing how we will turn to those things. And whether you see it or not, they become idols in our lives. We put so much of who we are into what we look like, what we hold in our hand, and who we're connected to because of what we have in our hand when it comes to a phone. The amount of money can sometimes determine our status. Guys, what happens is this idea of having idols or these false gods creep in whether we see it or not. And when I was in your shoes back in high school, I struggled with this. The one true God, the maker of this earth, was not number one. Money, technology, clothes, popularity, being accepted, all of it became an idol in my life. And the reason I share this with you is because I believe that this is a key element to why sometimes we feel alone. Because what happens is you could have the best friend in the world, both of you love Jesus, and you decide to get serious about your relationship with him, and your friend is still caught on worshiping the false gods. And as you continue to journey closer to Jesus, and your friend is stuck, you're left alone. And as I was heading into college, I felt, man, is this whole following Jesus thing worth it? Because I experienced incredible loneliness. And I realized that, man, I was locking in on who Jesus was in my life, and I was pursuing him with everything I had. And what happened was my friends decided to go a different direction. And so the second thing that I want to share with you that I think plays a role, before I do that, I asked if any of you guys were graduated seniors going to be freshmen in college. 18 to 21. All right, we just heard this morning in our adult meeting that over 60% of young adults like that are the key age of people who will fall away from the faith, that they will turn away from Jesus. And I think because of that false God conversation we just had, I think that's why. You think about it, you have a new environment. You go off to college, some of you may choose it, some of you may go right into the career field, both are awesome. But it's a new life, it's a new chapter. And you guys go and you have to redevelop all of your peer relationships. You have to begin, putting yourself out there, meeting new people. And all the pressures that you thought you conquered when you were in high school, they kind of start all over again. You want to be accepted, you want to fit in. You don't want to miss out on the party. And let's be honest, college, you go away, you're no longer under your parents' roof, unless you live at home and commute. And so the rules change, the freedoms increase. Your ability to kind of make your own decisions start to come into play. And I think what happens is that becomes an idol. That freedom becomes something that you start to idolize. It's like, man, I get to do what I want. And what happens is the regular routine of going to church every weekend, your daily devotions, being in a small group of like-minded people on a daily or weekly basis, man, that routine goes away. And what happens now is you're forgetting what you had, and you're pursuing these false things. And I think that's why so many people fall away from the faith at that age. And so today I want you to know, and I want you to take these practical things and put into place so that you can walk out of here knowing, A, you're not alone, but B, that there is a boldness that we need to have when it comes to our faith. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I want to share a little bit. I want you to open up your Bibles if you have them here, all right, to the book of Luke. Book of Luke. Book of Luke, chapter 5. And as you guys flip there, Luke chapter 5, there's a challenge that I want to give you guys. It's a challenge for those of you who have the opportunity of hearing me often, right? It's something that I always try to challenge us as students because it's something that changed my life. We are called to love God with everything we have, heart, soul, mind, and strength, giving Him everything we've got. He tells us to love others likewise, right? Love Him, love others. Keep that at the forefront of your mind, but sometimes the world just hits us left and right. And so here's the thing. I challenge you guys to run after Christ as fast as you can. Know who He is. Know how Jesus conducted His life here on earth. A practical way to understand who He is by, open up one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Read it. Read it like you're reading a novel. I joked with our crew a couple weeks ago. I absolutely can't stand reading. I don't like to read. Well, we have something beautiful now called YouVersion, where a creepy little dude will read to you. It's awesome, right? I'll plug in headphones and I will listen to him read me scripture. Because sometimes I can focus better when I hear it rather than reading it. So there's actually no excuse. But man, understand who Jesus is. So pick one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and read it to know who Jesus was. And then after you read it once, I want you to go back and I want you to reread it. And this time as you read it, I want you to pull out characteristics of who Jesus is. Man, what are some characteristics of Jesus? Help me out. Real simple, but help me out. What do you think? Characteristics of Jesus. He's loving. What else? What else? In the back. He's caring. Perfect. What's that? He's cleansing, right? He cleanses us of our sins even. Good. What's that? I'm sorry. Forgiving. Perfect. Passionate. Guys, compile a list. Write it out. And then it's going to be a little self-eval. I want you to say, okay, if I was to look at that list, we had loving, caring, cleansing, forgiving. I'm making them up. All right, I know there's compassion, other things, right? You look at these things, and then you ask yourself, am I a forgiving person? So I would say, Todd, are you forgiving? Are you compassionate? Are you loving towards others? And the ones that are evident, I want you to circle. And the ones that aren't circled, that shows you areas where you can begin working in your life because we are striving to be like Jesus. And I encourage you to do it 4 times a year. Your list will be different. And it always shows you something to work on. And so my challenge for you is to run after Jesus as fast as you can. Put your head down and run. Hide your eyes, hide your heart and mind from the ways of the world, the distractions, the temptations, and just keep running after Him. And after a while, look up. See who's around. See who else is on the journey with you. Those are the people that will A, show you that you're not alone, and B, that are people that you can link arms with and start making a difference in this world. Run as fast as you can. And after a while, look up, see who's on the journey with you. Sometimes that's even some of my best dating advice. Okay? You want to know who the right person is? Just run after Jesus. And after a while, if he or her are next to you, then you know that might be something that you can pursue with a relationship. But as we look at Luke chapter 5, this verse here actually rocked my world 2 weeks ago. All right, it's a story, an account. You can go down to verse 17. Verse 17. It's an account here where we see a guy who's paralyzed. And his buddies go and they lower him through the roof down to Jesus. All right, so let's do this with the people right around you, the 3 or 4 people. I want you to read 17 to 26. Luke 5, 17 to 26. Go ahead and read it.
I will prove to you that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Turn to the life and please take me back to the be with you I thought you were saying if I was everyone was amazing.
Okay, so help me out. What stuck out to you? Luke 5, 17, 26. What stuck out to you? Go ahead.
Because whenever Jesus said that his sins were forgiven, Jesus said, "Who you in question your hearts, which is easier to say this is of the worst thing that I thought, that you may know the Son of Man has authority on earth."
That's awesome, right? And so Jesus was questioned, right? Well, what else stuck out to you? The faith of the guy's buddies. Good. What else? There's kind of like two parts of the story that I absolutely love. Here's a guy. Put yourself in a situation. He's paralyzed. Not much he can do, right? And you think about allowing his buddies to come up to him and say, "Look, we're going to get you to Jesus." And this man, who really had no other options, he's literally lying there and honestly thinking, "Well, what else could I do? Go ahead, take me to Jesus." Right? He had a boldness. He had an extraordinary faith. But what was said is, and what I love about this the most, and they're kind of go as the unsung heroes here, are his buddies. You have these guys who are like, "You know what? This man needs help. And the person that can help him is Jesus. And we're going to do everything in our power to get him to Jesus." And so they approached this house where Jesus was teaching. It was jam-packed. Think the front stage where all of you come down when Jordan's playing with the band. Picture that and Jesus standing in the middle. There's no way that they could get him to Jesus. And so they got creative. They thought outside the box. They believed full-heartedly, with all faith, extraordinary faith and boldness, that we're going to lower him right down through the roof. We're going to get him to Jesus. And I love how Jesus responded. It's not, he said, "Man, it's easier for me to say, man, buddy, your sins are forgiven," than to say, "Pick up your mat and walk." And it's not because, hey, you brought this man that needs help. No, he saw their faith. They believed that Jesus was the answer, the Messiah, the one who could heal. Guys, I was hit with this story 2 weeks ago. I was with a team of 40 people in Mexico on a mission trip. And I was really conflicted on how I was conducting my life while I was there in Mexico. Because was I living a life of extraordinary faith? Extraordinary boldness? Was I allowing the gospel, was I allowing my faith to be at the forefront of who I am? And this boldness was completely missing when it came to my time there in Mexico. We had the privilege with our team to go into a house and we were delivering care packages, like meals to families who were in need. And while we were there, I'll show you a picture. There we go. All right, that's Javier, and then the pastor, I'm drawing a blank. Risa, do you know his name? The orange shirt? Okay, that's all right. All right, so here we go. All right, here in this house, I want to paint the picture, and I want you guys to hear what happened. When I read this story, I actually challenged the team with it, because while we were standing here, the pastor who's in the orange shirt in the back brought us into the home of this elderly couple who's sitting down. They live right across the street from this little church in their village, in their little town. And when we walked in, the pastor began to explain to this couple that a group of gringos, Americans, white people, right, were there. They were sent by God. And that we were literally to bring a good news, to bring a gift to them. And the food wasn't the gift. He said they have something much greater to bring you. They are bringing the gift of Jesus. And he said to them, I want you to hear the gospel, the story, the good news of who Jesus is. And then he looked at our team right there on the spot and said, who's going to present the gospel to them? And the team kind of, Pastor Todd, you're up, right? Because we were kind of put on the spot. And I'll be honest, I was put on the spot a little bit. It had been a while where I was challenged to share my faith. Because it's amazing how we get comfortable sometimes. It's amazing that we'll lose that boldness. We'll lose that extraordinary faith that these men had to lower their buddy to Jesus. I was put on the spot there, and I was conflicted. I'm like, okay, it's been a while since I've done this. But I'm like, all right, I have to allow my faith to be at the forefront. I have to allow myself to have the boldness in order to share my faith. And so I just began laying out the gospel of who Jesus is and why God sent his son to this earth for us. And this couple, while sitting there, you could hear them. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but they were asking the pastor just questions while I was sharing. And in the end, the pastor said, we want to pray for you. And we want you to repeat the prayer of salvation so that you can begin your relationship with Jesus today and not allow another day to go by without a Savior. And man, to watch this couple sitting here pray the prayer of salvation, it was awesome. And it was a perfect reminder that we should always be running after Jesus and keeping at the forefront our faith and having a boldness like the men here in Luke 5. So my question to you is this. Are you living a bold life? Are you living with your faith being the forefront of who you are and all that you're doing? Guys, it may leave us alone at times. It may leave us where we feel lonely and we're doing it all by ourselves. But I'm reminded, example after example through Scripture, that our lives, man, it's greater when we keep God number one. In fact, everything that we need, we don't need the false gods. All of our hope, all of our comfort, all of our strength and peace is found in the Lord. And we just need to focus in on who He is and what He can do in our lives. Guys, this day with this couple, it rocked my world. They sat outside on their porch, and every weekend when church was happening across the street, they heard the music. They were able to hear the sermon. But when a group of Americans came down and said, listen, we are here specifically for you, to bring you a gift, to bring you the truth of who Jesus is, guys, they're forever changed. They get to experience eternity. And it's not because of what I did, not because of what the other members of that group did. It's nothing. But God put us in a position to say, this is the day that this couple are going to become children of mine. That they're going to know who I am, and that their lives are going to be forever changed. Do you have that boldness? Are you living with that extraordinary faith? Think about it. And I challenge you, as you guys leave here today, don't focus so much on being alone in your faith, but rather be bold in who God has created you to be, keeping the gospel and the truth of who He is at the forefront of all you do. And like I said, every once in a while, look up and see if other people are living the same way you are. Those are the people to link arms with. Go to battle with. Bring the truth and the love of Christ to anyone who you come in contact with. All right? You don't have to be alone in your faith, even though sometimes you feel that way. With the 3 or 4 people right around you, this is what I want you to do. All right? I've got 3 questions, or 3 things, for you to pray about. All right? So right around your tables, I actually like that we're in tables. I want you to take a couple minutes. I will close this before we dismiss. All right? Here are the 3 things that I want you to be praying for. Pray for ways to make your faith a priority in your life. Pray that God will show you how to make your faith a priority in your life. Pray that God will show you the false gods, the idols in your life that have taken the place before God Himself. All right? Pray that God would show you what are things that you are putting before Him. And the last thing, Pray for one individual back home, maybe even here with you at Momentum. Pray for one individual who you are going to make a point to share your faith with when you return home. Can you guys pray for those three things right around your tables, and then I'll close this here in a couple minutes. Go.
What was the last one? Be able to share the gospel when very soon hearts are talking to talk to their hearts.
I just saw your I have one of the leaders, I guess. His name is Mike. He's like,
Lord God, we praise you for all that you're doing in each one of our lives. God, thank you so much for the first couple of days of this conference where we get to see life change, where we're seeing people begin a relationship with you. God, we pray that you will meet each one of us right where we are. God, I pray that even in times of our lives where we're struggling, where we feel like we're running aimlessly and we're not getting anywhere, maybe the sense of being alone in our faith, God, I pray that we can be reminded of who you are and the plans that you have for us in our lives. God, thank you for the example in Luke 5 where we see just this extraordinary faith and a boldness to understand that you are someone that we can come to in all times, in all needs. God, I pray that we can take that example and exemplify it in our own lives. God, you heard names of people who we want to go home and just share our faith with, to be intentional with, to give your love to them. So God, I pray for those interactions. I pray that you would begin working in the hearts of these people, that they would be open to the truth of your word, the truth of the gospel. And I pray for life change. God, I pray for these students in this room. I pray that they can continue to strive after you with everything they have and flee from the distractions of this world. God, I pray that they will find people like-minded that are also pursuing you, that they can link arms with and run into battle together. God, we praise you just for who you are and all that you're doing. And I pray for the rest of this week that we would continue to experience life change and that we can experience the ability to come closer to you this week. So God, we praise you, we love you, and we pray this in your name. Amen.